throws you punches. Trauma, life, and burnout. I've lived through it all, and I've built something for the fighters that refuse to stay down. If you're ready to stop playing small and own your story, then this is where you belong. The Unstoppable Network is where the overcoming stories are getting very loud. From veterans to survivors to trailblazers, sharing their story of turning their pain into power. Welcome to the Unstoppable Network, where we turn your mess into a message. All right. It's great to be back live. That video is still kind of like, I'm a big worst critic, and I'm like, there's some things that I got to change. But anyways, I love it. And shout out to Merrick Avro for making that amazing video for us. So if you are in the market for anything, he is your man. I will connect him. Just message me and I will connect you with him. I am your co-host, Dorothy Odell. I am the owner and founder of the Unstoppable Network, where we bring our veterans, our survivors, and our trailblazers to you each and every week, sharing their pain, turning their pain into power, and just really saying, hey, man, if we can get through this, so can you. That's what we're all about. And I know you love the word about there, Dr. J. So with that, this is the amazing Dr. J. She is the owner and founder of Semper Modus. So tell us a little bit about what Semper Modus does.
Semper Modus is a private practice that we do therapy. We take insurance, we take private pay, all of that. It's all of us who have basically joined together to pursue a career in healing, and each one of us is from a different branch, and first responders and firefighters as well, who has then received their licensure, and we are nationwide, so we're here to serve. I also want to plug my sister's company, because I crochet, as you probably have seen me do on some of these videos, because it helps my mind work. I crochet lovely little items for my sister's store, which is called Raboin Mercantile, Raboin Mercantile. And she's got lots of really cool finds, different things on there, not just crochet. But I wanted to plug her and send her some love and let her know that I'm here to support. Yes.
Woohoo! All right. With that, we have in the house already our veteran ally, Melody Beliveau from Massachusetts.
Very cool.
She is actually the woman that got me back into the veteran space. Growing up in the with military surrounding me, never really thought much about it until, Melody said, "Hey, I need you to speak to Greg Bicknell," and here we are 4 years later.
Yeah, so, Greg texted me today. That's awesome.
That is awesome, and I'm super excited because tonight, for the very first time, we have a Canadian veteran that has actually served in active duty over in Afghanistan. His name is Bruce Moncur, served as a reservist as part of Task Force 3. Let me bring him up while I share this amazing bio. Task Force 3-06 and fought in Operation Medusa, where he was injured in a friendly fire incident involving an American A-10 aircraft. Having 5% of his brain removed, he had to relearn how to walk, talk, read, and write. He went back to school to see if he could learn and graduate from the University of Windsor with masters. So I guess he overcame that pretty good.
Yeah.
Since his injuries, he's advocated for veterans' rights and has currently started a nonprofit called Valor in the Presence of the Enemy that will examine the heroism of soldiers and advocate recognition fitting of their actions.
Wow.
Hey guys.
Rob, I don't know what else to say. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. Yeah. Good. Yeah, I'm actually I have 3 or 4 more days at my cottage, and then I'm going to make the trek back to Manitoba, where I'm going to start getting my classroom ready. I teach a grade 5 class in Wapanook Community School. It's a Cree immersion school, and I'm going to be going back there to yeah, teach some grade 5 students, hopefully to get their reading levels and their math levels up. And yeah, I'm pretty excited.
God bless you. That's an amazing feat. Fifth graders? Oh.
Yeah, yeah.
I love your accent with all these Canadians. I'm
Oh,
outvoted this time. Like there's outnumbered. This is crazy. I've never known outnumbered. So this is awesome. So tell us what brought you into the military? Why did you choose to serve?
oh my goodness. So when I was in high school, I think I was in grade 11, and two of my best friends joined the reserves. And I figured, it's going to be a boring summer without my two best friends. Maybe I'll go, but I wasn't quite sold on it. And when I went to see my dad at work that day, or before he was going to stop, I said, my two buddies are joining. How about I was thinking about maybe, thinking about going down and getting a pamphlet or something. And before I knew it, he had me there that night, and I was joined the army. So I always thought he wanted a babysitter because, I was under 18, so he had to sign the permission slip. In Canada, you can join the reserves at 16. And so if you're under the age of 18 with parental consent, and I was in Meaford, Ontario, at the base on June 23rd, 2001, and I finished basic training August 23rd, 2001, and 3 weeks later, September 11th happened.
Wow.
So yeah, so I only knew a peacetime army for about 3 weeks before it really ramped up to the war on terror and fighting in Afghanistan. And I'll never forget getting home and getting that message on the answering machine. This message is for Private Moncur, just letting you know that our unit has been put on standby. You're to come and get the kit lists at the armories, and you will be on 72 hours notice to move.
Yep.
And so I'm grade 12 now, and taking history and math and thinking, what about my high school diploma? So yeah, I mean, fortunately they didn't require all the reservists to get to go over. So that was at least something, but it was a stressful time, I guess, for so many of us. And I actually lived in the States for about 14 years. I lived in Michigan and Texas before that. So I had been very very upset by the attack on the Americans because of having lived there for so long and had so many friends that lived there, and I still have family that lived over there. So it was as if we'd both been as if Canada and the United States had been attacked, not just the US.
Absolutely. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So the general consensus of everyone that's entered the military, for the most part, I think more rather than not, have been convinced by a buddy, I myself included.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I'm going in the Air Force. You want to go? Sure. Yeah. Right. Have no idea, no concept. But
yeah.
Did you connect with them? Do you maintain connection with them?
One I am in particularly close contact with. He actually started he's a firefighter now, and he started an apparel company called Corporal for Life.
Nice.
And so he sells military themed T-shirts, and the other ones became a police officer, and we just kind of lost touch.
It's crazy how
life gets in the way
after serving.
Yeah.
I think we all do that in a certain way.
Yeah, and it's great because when I came down here for the summer, my kids and my partner are in Europe for visiting her family. So I was down here. I'm working on a book, and I'm starting. I'm working on this project that we'll talk about a little bit later in the petition. And it was really cool going to grab drinks with an old army buddy here, going for sushi with another army buddy there, and so it was really nice to communicate and talk and catch up and just yeah.
That's awesome.
Wow. I had no idea, and I should have known, I guess, or put two and two together. I've been trying to get your friend on the show for a little bit. We have been like back and forth. His schedule, because he's a firefighter, is not working out for our time schedule.
Even to hang out with him is doesn't work out. I only got to see him once in 2 months, but yeah, he's busy guy. So, but hopefully you nail him down and get there. And I really like the shirts that he's starting to come out with, and he's really proud of the fact that his new line of shirts are all made in Canada. So there's nothing is outsourced outside of the country. So that's pretty cool.
That is very cool.
That's pretty cool. All right, so we know why you joined. Now, here you are. You joined. Your dad, with your dad's blessing. My parents would have been like, "What the heck are you doing?" But everybody's different. So you joined. What was your first experience like when you're like, "Okay, now you got to go"?
Okay, so I joined in 2001. I didn't deploy until 2006. And I was in the middle of finishing high school, starting my education. And a big thing was I didn't get the credits required to go to university in high school. One class in particular, the teacher kind of really screwed me over a bit. And so I basically couldn't get into university, so I thought I'd do college, and I tried to do journalism, and I did pretty good for the first semester, but then I discovered the bar and euchre, so I was drinking and playing euchre a lot more than doing my classes, so I essentially drank my way out.
Okay, so euchre needs to be explained to people that are from the South, and I'm in Florida now. I'm from Saginaw, Michigan.
Okay.
Right?
What the hell? You mean you Americans don't know what the hell
everyone
is?
Not everyone.
And not even euchre's not that big in Manitoba. They love crib over there. So I've had to it's a bone up on my cribbage. But euchre is essentially a 4-person game. You only use the cards 9 through ace, and you try to take essentially tricks. And if somebody calls, it makes it like say spades, then those are trump, and those are the more you could trump an ace offsuited with the 9 of spades essentially. So, and the jack and the 2 black jacks are the 2 strongest cards.
Yeah, and when you Google euchre, it's spelled EUCHRE, not euchre like the euchres, right? It's so much different.
So you should have had a game while you were still here.
Yeah, no, it's no, I've been playing a few. Yeah, I've there's a few people here that play euchre, so I've had a couple late nights.
Yeah, it's very a North thing.
Yeah, my friend, he just got one of those Ninja slushy machines where you don't need ice.
Oh yeah.
And so we were, oh man, that thing's dangerous. That thing is very dangerous.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, that is. But no, it was good. It was good to hang out and to be my family all have cottages around here. So actually the cottage I'm in right now, my dad got as a wedding present in 1982. And before I deployed, I bought it off of him. Basically, I used all my army money I bought it off of him for back then for like 35,000, and then I put another 30 in it and renovated it. So it's been I've had it for almost 20 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now the current market for that would probably be close to $500,000.
I don't know about that, but it's definitely an appreciated investment.
That's when you say thanks, Dad.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, you paid for it, but
yeah.
My parents' first house was $33,000. That's when we lived in Tilbury. So Windsor and Tilbury is an hour for those of you that have no idea where that is, but I'm sure Bruce knows.
I've driven through Tilbury many times. Yes. There's an on the first en route is there. So if you stop at the first en route on the 401, that's where you're stopping.
What's en route?
So it's an Ontario like rest stop area. So you go.
Okay.
But they have restaurants and
I
gas.
appreciate he spent time in the States because he understands my language.
Yeah.
Cool. Yes. And en route is a rest area. Good to know.
Yeah.
A rest area though with a restaurant, because some of your rest areas don't have restaurants over there.
That's true.
No. Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah, Illinois has some pretty good ones. Yeah, because I just drove
pay for it. They got toll bridges. That's why. They can pay for it.
Which reminds me, I have to pay my.
We call those travel centers. Not rest.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. So, but no, I've done that drive where you are in Florida because my grandparents used to have a place in Key West. So I used to do that. I used to do that drive. It was like 2-day drive from here from Windsor to, and I could tell you 30 or 45 minutes through Michigan, 4 hours through Ohio, 5 hours through Kentucky and Tennessee, 6 hours through Georgia, and 10 hours through Florida.
Yeah.
I've done that many times. So
absolutely.
One time we stopped in, I can't remember the county in, I want to say Tennessee. And we're like, bone tired. And we're like, oh, out of curiosity, where's your nearest liquor store? And like, oh, we're a dry county. And we're like, load back up. We're gonna get back in the car. We're driving. We're gonna keep going. So
there are a lot of those too.
Yeah. No, we weren't.
They don't let you know ahead of time. Drive ahead. Like no one's notified.
We weren't messing around.
A reservist, and then you went active duty?
Yeah. So essentially what happened was I volunteered to be an augmentee. So at the beginning in 2005, Canada upped its level of commitment in Afghanistan. Essentially what ended up happening was then Prime Minister Paul Martin was basically confronted by the Bush administration, and they were rather upset with Canada for not joining the coalition of the willing in Iraq, and came to Canada saying, "Look, we're not going to renew our softwood lumber deal we do every 10 years. We're not going to build these 2 pipelines, and we're not going to lift the ban on beef because we had a mad cow scare. I don't know if you remember that. So the Paul Martin government was in the middle of a huge scandal at the time. It's called the sponsorship scandal, which was essentially a bribery scandal that looked like it would take down this government of about 12, 13 years that the Liberals had been in power. And so they decided to come up forward with a compromise and told the Americans, we won't go into Iraq, but what if we up our level of commitment in Afghanistan, and that frees up some of your resources there, and you can then take them to Iraq. And the American government agreed that that was a good plan. And then essentially we moved from Kabul, the relatively safe Kabul area, down to the Kandahar region. And the Americans then built the 2 pipelines, continued lifted the ban on beef, and signed the softwood lumber deal.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Sounds really politicky.
Machiavelli. It's Machiavelli at its finest. So
absolutely, it's like, yeah, you help us or we don't. We starve you. That's pretty American. Yeah.
I mean, but the war was sold to us as we were fighting the war on terror, and we had to do our part. It was never sold to us in a way of, listen, the Americans have us over a barrel. We're going to lose billions of dollars if we don't do this. So the propaganda machine started quick. And I remember I did a 10-day exercise in Petawawa, Ontario, and we were approached, and they were handing out pamphlets asking people to volunteer for this tour. And I had looked at it, and one of the questions was, well, how do I sell this to my mom? How do I convince my mom? And the guy said, tell her it's like if you were a hockey player and you only practiced, but you never got to play in a real game. And so, like, basically they're giving us, propaganda that we could sell to our families, and basically trying to argue that we should go to war. And then my platoon or my regiment then had basically like tryouts, where it honestly was like 30 to 60 guys competing for two spots.
Wow.
And it got downright cutthroat. And I honestly think it would have probably been one of the most interesting reality television shows that you could ever see.
Start one.
Yeah. So these guys, it was cutthroat, and I happened to be one of the ones selected for the tour, and went back to Petawawa and did pre-training, and like 6 months of prep work, trying to get ready to deploy. And then in August of 2006, I deployed to Afghanistan.
Wow. And how long were you there?
I was not there very long. See, I took part. Well, what you mentioned in the intro about Operation Medusa, and m- basically, Operation Medusa is the largest NATO-led battle in history, and of NATO, and it was the largest Canadian-led battle since the Korean War. And my platoon of 40 was reduced to 5 in 2 days of fighting, between dying and getting injured. So we essentially were going to take a white church or a white school. It's an infamous white school because it's the white school that the Taliban became a formed entity. And what ended up happening was um, essentially what ended up happening was it was a sentimental value. So it would be kind of like if the Americans were, if somebody took over where the Americans signed the Declaration of Independence, or took something of that sentimental value away from. And so what we were taking this school was also being used as a base of operations, and they had cut holes into the ceiling and were using it to fire mortars at us, and we were going to essentially bulldoze it, and then on top of it build the country's second highway. And so we had dropped leaflets a few days before, essentially telling people that if you're in this square on the map, that you would be seen as an enemy combatant and eliminated, so you're to leave this area. And then we were going to bomb the school for 3 days, but the leadership decided that they were going to reduce it to one. And unfortunately for us, it kind of really hurt morale when we realized that it was only going to be from 1 to 3 days. Nobody had any combat experience, so everybody was green from the top to the bottom. So this was all of our first times fighting. So I think in retrospect, it would have been better to err on the side of caution and to maintain those 72 hours rather than cutting it to 24. But again, I wasn't in a decision. I was a frontline grunt, so my opinion was not terribly valued. And we essentially didn't really have a plan, so we walked in like a straight line, World War I style, until we were enveloped on three sides, and basically walked into a pincer trap. Um, first really used to perfection by Hannibal in the Battle of Cannae, when he wiped out the Roman legions, like 50,000 Romans. So about 80 of us were my platoon and another platoon. About each platoon has 40 people, so about 80 of us essentially walked into a giant U-shaped ambush. Once we walked far enough into the U, they fired a pen flare into the air, and that was when all hell broke loose. And I was in a 5-hour firefight, and we began taking some major casualties, and surrounded by 400 estimated 400 Taliban. So they were dug in and outnumbered us by almost 5 to 1, and we eventually, about 25% of us became casualties, so we had to retreat. And once we retreated, well, we were going to go back in the next morning, the 4th of September 2006. But unfortunately, an American A-10 Warthog in the air was given the wrong coordinates. Um, and we had lit an unauthorized fire in our position. And without checking his coordinates, or he was given improper voice procedures. So the Canadian on the ground told him to look for the fire instead of giving him a grid reference. And then he saw our fire, which we weren't supposed to light. He didn't check his coordinates, and he strafed our position. And I was one of the people shot, where I had was shot in the head, back, and the butt. I lost consciousness. We were on the side of a mountain, so I was thrown down the mountain and landed, breaking my nose. And I came to, and this arm was flopping like a fish out of water, and I thought it was detached, and it was because I got shot on this side, that this side of my body was still kind of like going nuts. So I grabbed my arm, I grabbed my and got it back under control, grabbed my other arm, grabbed my legs, did an extremity check, and I was like, okay, everything's attached, and I just like let out this big relief. And that's when I put my head down, the blood just started pouring, just pouring. And I'm trying to catch it. And I remember I had, like, when you wash your face, I basically had a full handful of blood, and I dropped it into the sand. And I still remember this day, the coagulation, of my blood and the sand mixing together. And it was at that point when I realized that the blood was no longer good to me, and I drop it, that I started feeling like a weird sensation, and it turned out it was the breeze on my brains.
Mm-hmm.
So I hadn't felt that before, but it was essentially the air. And I've actually got something I wanted to show you guys. I was going through some old boxes, and I found these, and I don't know if you can see, but that is my blood on the glasses that I was wearing that day. So I've never shown anybody this. So the first time I've ever publicly shown this. So yeah. So yeah, those are my glasses I was wearing at the time, and I came across an old box with my old dog tags and my victory cigars I was gonna smoke that are unopened, and I have a watch that's frozen on the time of getting shot. So I was airlifted to Kandahar Air Base, and I was told I had to call home because I was about to go into emergency brain surgery, and they wanted me to notify my family. It's 2 a.m. on a Monday, Labor Day Monday, and I call home. I say, "Look, I'm about to go into surgery." My aunt asks to talk to the doctor. The doctor says, "Look, he's got a 50-50 shot of pulling through this, and then he's going to have to go to Germany for a second surgery. But this is just a cleanup job." And so I go into the
sand out of the brain. That'd be great. Wow.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So I went to I came to after the first surgery, and I'm covered in lead lined blankets. And I called the nurse over and I say, "Hey, why am I covered in lead lined blankets?" And she's like, "Oh, during your surgery, the Taliban were firing rockets." And so credit to them staying at their stations, not seeking shelter in the bomb shelters, but staying with me in my surgery, and just praying that a rocket didn't find them.
Yeah, I mean, I've worn
Yeah.
helmets in surgery before, so it is
Yeah.
a thing. Yeah.
So I was then flown to Germany, where the Americans flew in a doctor that did surgery on Ronald Reagan when he was shot. And he did the second surgery where he removed 5% of my brain. And but there's still uranium embedded in my brain that's too deep to retrieve. They learned in Vietnam it's better to leave than retrieve. And so I still walk around with uh, depleted uranium in my brain.
Are you
And
found at the airport?
no, actually, I don't set things off. I had a piece of paper. I had everything. I had pieces of shrapnel coming out of my body for a few years after that, like working their way out like zits or whatever. But
Oh yeah,
yeah,
do that.
yeah,
There's bullets that are
yeah.
people for a good 14, 15 years, and they're like, oh, it's at the surface.
Yeah.
They take a
Yeah.
little knife and pop it out.
Yeah. So it was interesting. You get a little piece out, you know, a little souvenir coming out here and there. Actually, there is a good story. While I was in Germany, I was the food was atrocious at Landstuhl, and I just wasn't eating, and I was just like miserable. And this woman from Oklahoma, her name was Heidi, and she was a beautiful, wonderful nurse. And I asked her, I was like, "Hey, can you go to McDonald's and get me a cheeseburger?" And she said, "Okay." And I said, "My wallet, it should be in my bag." She goes in and she goes, "Why do you have so much money?" And I said, "Oh, the night before I played poker with these Americans, and I cleaned I cleaned house." And she's
Of
like,
course you did.
I won like $500 in like ones and fives and stuff like that. So I had this like Costanza wallet, like just like, you know, it was hard to sit on, whatnot. So she goes, "Well, okay, that's fine, but why is it all ripped?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And it turns out a piece of shrapnel went through my wallet and it stopped at the last dollar bill. So that dollar bill literally saved my ass.
So that's awesome.
Yeah, so
poker with the Americans and getting your $500 and
yeah,
1.5 saved your
I
life.
I still have, or saved my butt at least.
Well, I mean, it
Yeah,
depends on the angle, because if it would have, shot you in the ass
yeah.
and turned a certain way, it could
So
have got your spine.
I still have that. I still have that dollar bill. So I've saved it all these years, and so it's in my coin collection. Yeah,
Money actually saved my ass.
yeah. It literally. So
Thank
Melody,
God for Americans sucking at
yeah.
poker.
So
Melody says that's truly unstoppable. Yes.
Yeah, you really are unstoppable. This is amazing. How was
Yeah.
your recovery, though? God, 5%?
oh my goodness. So my recovery is a long story. Essentially, what ended up happening was I
Melody
lost.
just said,
Yeah.
talk about a bang for your buck. That's awesome.
So I ended up doing very intensive occupational therapy and physical therapy. I'd say about 9 months in particular, especially for the physical therapy, because I had to relearn how to read, write, walk, and talk. You know, I was slurring. I was, you know, I remember somebody called me and invited me to a gala, and I'm writing down a three, but it looks like an E. Like my brain has to basically, parts of my brain that I lost had to relearn how to do things. There's swelling, and the swelling has to go down. So I was walking with a cane for quite some time, and probably should have been walking with a cane a bit longer. But you know how a young man in his pride sometimes is not the best thing. So I essentially continued on my recovery. The big thing here was I just wanted to try to get back to Afghanistan. I felt like I had unfinished business. I felt like I was letting people down. I felt like I wouldn't let myself get PTSD. I wouldn't let myself do anything that would jeopardize being deemed combat effective again. And so one of the things they said was, well, my doctor, Dr. Agarwal out of London, said, I want to know if you still have the capacity to learn. And I want to prescribe university. So I went to the University of Windsor and I took 2 part-time classes, and I deliberately chose it in the subject that I really enjoy in history, and I did really I got 2 A minuses. And again, I had a lot of people. If you recall, Dorothy, my speech is I that I gave at Ream Park. I talk about how Windsor nursed me back to health after I was injured. And a lot of people really did things for me that really helped me out and really, basically put me on the path to start this second career after my military career was essentially over after the injury. And I owe a lot of people a lot of thanks for how much they came through for me and how much my community and my city, my hometown, really actually essentially nursed me back to health. But eventually, it became obvious that there was some long-term effects that I couldn't overcome to get back to military active duty. And one in particular was my short-term memory loss. And the other was my fatigue when I concentrate. And I'll put it to you like this: climbing a mountain is not a problem for me. I could climb a mountain, no problem. The problem for me is reading a book about climbing a mountain. The concentration that I have to read the book, it just wipes me out. So it's very difficult for me to concentrate for long periods of time, especially reading, and so it became obviously that I was too injured to carry on. So I continued my degree, and around 2000, and essentially instead of I, I cut the military out of my life at this point. So now I don't even want to talk about it. I don't even want to talk about what I did. I don't want to talk about my regiment. I stopped talking to my friends. I stopped talking to all my army buddies. And I just basically was like, okay, I cut everybody out essentially at this point. And I ended up writing an essay about a Canadian soldier. His name is John Bernard Croak, and he won the Victoria Cross. And all anybody talks about him in terms of his career is the fact that he won the Victoria Cross, and they herald him as this hero that he's rightfully is. And he died and was posthumously given the Victoria Cross on August 8th, 1918. And one of the major elements of that was that before he got the Victoria Cross, he was, by all accounts, a very poor soldier, charged many times for drinking, AWOL, got a venereal disease during a very significant.
Sounds like a soldier.
Sounds like a soldier, but 13, 14 charges, brought up in charges, and then one day had just, basically one of the best days of a British Commonwealth soldier has ever had. They see the Victoria Cross has only been given out 1,354 times.
So is that like our Medal of Honor?
It is, yeah, it is equivalent. Yes. Okay. So, except Britain's a little stingier than you guys are. So, yeah. So it's the tens of millions that have fought for Britain. Again, 1,354 have gotten it, and the odds of surviving to get the medal is actually you have a better chance of winning the lottery. Yeah. So so I wrote this essay, and part of it was also I put myself in for this Canadian Battlefield Foundation's trip to Europe, and I got to go tour all the Canadian battlefields in World War I and World War II. There's a really poignant moment when I'm in Ypres, Belgium, and we're standing in a line, and there's this plaque, and he goes, picture a kilometer long, is a historian that Dr. Andrew Hiroshi, and he goes, picture a kilometer long green gas cloud coming towards you. This is the spot where gas was first used in World War I. So it was really poignant to see these battlefields and these things. And I was on Normandy Beach for the 69th anniversary of D-Day, and I went to see this video. I think it's called, I can't remember what the video is called, but you can only see it at Juno Beach. And at the end of the video, there's pictures of the soldiers before they went to Juno Beach, and they start making the guys that died disappear out of the photos. And I started thinking to myself, oh, I could do that with some of my photos, where I could make some of my friends disappear out of my photos. And that's when it struck me, and I really had a connection where I was like, I was probably one of the first times I could relate to a World War II veteran and a World War II story. And I don't know, I just broke down. I just cried. And I wrote an essay about how Canada had let me down with my pension. You see, at that point, my pension for 5% of my brain was a lump sum settlement, $22,000 for the rest of my life. And so,
shit.
And so essentially, if I were to put that in an annuity, it would equal to about $75 a month. And so The Canadians in 2006 created the new Veterans Charter, which is essentially going away from the World War II model, but essentially the old model versus the new model is they pay the new guys or us 35 cents on the dollar. So it was they waited until enough World War II veterans had passed away, and so that when it did come, it wouldn't affect the vote, and they essentially slashed our pensions. And in fact, Canadian soldiers are the only people in the country of Canada that receives a lump sum settlement for when they're injured, and we call it the meat chart. And essentially, it's so. Um, in ways the Americans are actually we wish we had some of the American system, in particular the GI Bill, and very in particular is being able to transfer our education uh, um, um, to our children. I mean, that is incredible for the Americans. Um, I would, somebody's retiring or whatever, and then they take their education fund and transfer it to their children. Is an incredible thing. I wish that Canada would definitely look at. But after that happened, I wrote that and it went viral. I published it with the Huffington Post, and it went all over Canada. And at the same time, the federal government was closing our local Veterans Affairs office here in Windsor, and they wanted a representative from here. And they asked a Vietnam veteran to go, and he goes, "Well, I served in the American Army. You'd probably want a Canadian soldier," and he suggested me. And so I went up to Ottawa and had a meeting with the Veterans Affairs Minister, and he walked out on us, and it became huge news. In fact, we bumped one of Obama's State of the Union addresses like at last second, and it was huge news all over the country. And then that was kind of where I started becoming an advocate and really fighting for our pensions and our Veterans Affairs offices. And we really started combating the federal government and how we were being treated. And yeah, and then I started really I became an advisor. I've been an advisor to a Veterans Affairs Minister for um 10 years now. I think I've gone through like 6 or 7 ministers, but I'm a constant, I guess. And so, yeah, I have an advisory role in that. And one of the big things was I started working on PTSD. I got a diagnosis, I want to say around 2011, 2012. And I started working on a concept of sanctuary trauma. Essentially is that expectation of being taken care of and that expectation not being met. And so what I ended up doing was I put in for sanctuary trauma, essentially saying, making the government admit that they would either have to admit that they're doing sanctuary trauma, or then would deny it and deny it even exists. And so it basically I had them almost in like a screwed,
catch
if you a catch 22. And it ended up working. It ended up working, and it was really cool. Was I ended up sharing that information with a woman that started it is a group here. It's not just 700, and it was a group of Canadian women that had been sexually assaulted in the military, and once I told them a little bit about sanctuary trauma, they they claimed it as well. And so it was kind of like a feather in my cap of passing on that information to these women. So I was pretty proud of that. There's been some highs and some lows in my advocacy. And then one thing in particular was I found that I've always been upset that nobody in the Canadian military got the Victoria Cross during Afghanistan. And so that's kind of what leads me into my next struggle, has been trying to get my friend Jess LaRochelle the Victoria Cross.
Wow. And what I'm going to do
about them.
Say again?
You're trying to get your friend the Victoria Cross?
Well, him among others. So basically, nobody got the Victoria Cross, but we're arguing that there should be a review, an independent body review, because we feel like there's been some mistakes made by the Canadian military in terms of the Victoria Cross. And to give you a little reference, in Iraq and Afghanistan, the Americans gave out 18 medals of honor, and the British gave out 5 Victoria Crosses. The Australians gave out 4 Victoria Crosses, and even the New Zealanders gave out 1 Victoria Cross. So we were the only country that did not bestow the highest medal. Now, the Victoria Cross now has is not it's not the British Victoria Cross anymore. In 1991, Australia took over its Victoria Cross, and now it's called the Australian Victoria Cross. And in 1993, Canada took over its Victoria Cross, and it's now called the Canadian Victoria Cross. And in the 32 years since its inception, Canada has never given it out. So we're arguing that it's just basically is that they're setting the bar so high. It's to give you I guess a baseball analogy or a football analogy. It's like not letting anyone into the Football Hall of Fame unless they're better than Tom Brady. So
good Lord, that's never going to happen.
Well, and that's the thing. That's basically what we're looking at here. Is that you're basically setting the bar so high. So my friend Jess Lower Shell, he about a little over a month after I was injured, he was manning an observation post in Afghanistan, and they knew an attack was coming, and they asked for a volunteer to go to the observation post, and Jess put his hand up. Now that's important information because that was new information we uncovered. So he walked out to this observation post, and within moments, he was hit by a rocket-propelled grenade. And when that rocket-propelled grenade broke his back, broke his neck, detached his retina, blew out one of his eardrums, and gave him a severe concussion. So when he came to, 2 of his section were dead and 3 were wounded. And he, instead of laying there as anyone else, no one would blame him, he decided to fight back. Now, you also got to remember with those injuries, if you're in a car accident with those injuries, you're considered in critical condition, right? But he hears this guy fighting, and he's firing his machine gun, and he starts running low on machine gun ammunition, and he starts firing single shot rocket launchers, which he has to undo the rubber stoppers, detach the tube, fired the tube, and all with these serious injuries. And in doing so, he repels the attack of 40 Taliban almost single-handedly, and saves the lives of arguably many soldiers. And he then mans that position for an additional 12 hours, goes back for the ramp ceremony to repatriate his fallen comrades. He carries the casket of Private Blake Williamson onto the plane, and only then does he put his hand up and say, "I think I'm injured." And so for his actions, he was given the second highest medal, the Star of Military Valor. But we are arguing that he should be upgraded to the Victoria Cross, or at least reviewed, so that he can, if the information merits an upgrade, that it can happen. And unfortunately, Jess never recovered from that day. His health was very poor. His mom ended up being his primary caregiver, and essentially 2 years ago today, on the 30th of August, 2 years ago, he died of massive organ failure at age 40.
Wow. What I have done in the comments, I have put the petition in the comments, and I'll put them in the show notes as well. I know that's a long thing, but just click in the comments, and it will be on. I'll put it on the YouTube show notes as well. But I signed the petition.
Oh,
I
thank
asked
you.
my husband to sign the petition, and I said to my husband, I'm like, "This is the story. Can you just please go do it?" And normally he's just like, "Ah," and he says, "Yes, I'll go do it." So
That's awesome.
so there's 2 of those. Can Americans sign it, or does it have to be Canadian?
It's only Canadians, unfortunately.
Right.
But it is a great thing that we are starting to get him out there. His name is starting to. Essentially, was what came about this was during COVID. I had written a pilot, a screenplay about Grover Cleveland, an American president, and I was trying to pitch it. and nobody would, even look at it. So I was given the advice to try do Canadian content first. And so I had this idea to do this show about 10 Stellar Military Valor winners, including Jess, and to present them in a documentary format. And we couldn't get anybody to pick it up. So we decided that we would try to do social media pages to show, like, look, we're getting hundreds of thousands of hits on our pages. This would actually sell, but it was all for naught. But kind of an effect of it was we were getting hundreds of thousands of people looking at our content and looking at our stuff. And my wife at the time, my partner at the time, was a member of parliament, and she had suggested that I start a petition. And we started our petition, and she was kind of advising me, and we started this really rad grassroots movement. And yeah, so uh, it was. It's been 5 years, and unfortunately, we've been fighting the the, the liberals a lot. But I think there's going to be a change since the tariffs and since the 51st state talk from Trump. There's been a large nationalist movement here in Canada. The famous elbows up sayings and stuff like that. So we've uh, we've seen our stuff really starting to take off, and we think that this might be, the public opinion has always been on our side, but it seems like it's going to be really hard for the government to dismiss us as easily as they did before.
Well, anything that we could do to help with that, my friend, like, let me know,
I
because
appreciate it.
it's like, I look back. I had an uncle that served, and he was in stationed in Kingston for a bit, and then he went on to Calgary. Ended up quitting. Long story there. He wanted to go in front lines, but they refused. The medical issues that he had. Ended up quitting and teaching English in Taiwan, and passed away about 10 years ago of a massive heart attack. But I never had these conversations with him. I mean, yes, we went to Kingston. Yes, we went, to the pub out there, to the Toucan, and visited while he
Yeah,
was in service.
I've
But
been to
I
the
mean,
Toucan many times. Yeah,
my dad had the shirt. I was like, I want to go back and
yeah,
just
yeah.
to go back there. And so I never had these conversations with him. But I was just like, you know, now that I've spoken to you, like, I'm just sitting back here and thinking, as a Canadian, it's been extremely frustrating the last 5 years, with all this bullshit, this political bullshit that's been going back and forth. And, well, especially since COVID, and being the restricted that we are. And anyways, I won't go into too much about that. But hearing you today is just like, okay, so this is not all my head. This is like, how can we help our Canadians just as much as we've helped our Americans in the past 4 years. But $22,000, like, that's a slap in the face for basically having to reinvent your life. That's complete bullshit. So whatever we can do to help you get more people to say, wait a minute, something's got to change, I'm all for it. You want to make a documentary? Let's make the damn documentary. I got people that, and we'll just do it ourselves. We don't need, uh, you know, it's funny because I've been wanting to take my top stories, and, well, how do you take top stories out of 400? But anyways, my top veteran stories, and makes a movie out of it. And I think maybe, I don't know, we'll do something, because I've talked to filmmakers, and they're like, oh, well, that doesn't sell. Well, you know what, Hollywood, maybe that it should, because the Terminator isn't fucking real. You have men like Bruce here that just shared his story, real life people, and gets $22,000 for the rest of his life. Like, come on, that's bullshit. Yeah, now
I should
you just revved up the machine.
I should I should preface that I did end up getting my pension sorted out. It took about 10 years, but it did end up getting to the point where it's like, at a better point now. Yeah.
But still, like,
Yeah.
I mean, I listened to my American veterans saying they go to the VA. I don't know how many times. Started at 10%. Now, now they're at 90% covered. But it took them 20 freaking years to do it. Like, what do you got to do?
It's an insurance company, and the famous line that I made public at that Fantino incident was the triple D policy: delay, deny, die.
Yeah.
And that's was basically the mentality is that the government is going to delay you, deny you enough times before hopefully you die and you don't cost any money. And we've had soldiers offered medically assisted suicides here, and which is illegal for one, and wholly unacceptable. And a government, and in particular the minister at the time, not taking responsibility for the actions of for his ministry. So we've had some issues. For example, Jess Lorachelle, they didn't actually say his name publicly until he died. So I think it took him 3 years to actually publicly acknowledge his name, and that was a win for us. Like, imagine being like, oh wow, they actually said his name. That's like a positive thing for us. So that's just how out of touch, or how callous people can be. And we're hoping now that a little bit more common sense has come in with this new prime minister, and the new government that's coming in, that it's going to be harder for them to be so heartless.
Well, let's hope to God that does change. I mean, I won't share my political view, but I didn't vote for the person that's in right now. Let's just put it that way. It was more here in Canada.
It's okay.
It's more of a case the devil you know than the devil you don't know. And in my opinion, I don't think I'm not going to make this a political stance, but to me, didn't know who you could actually trust. So I went for local, like who I could trust locally. And that really backfired on my ass too. But anyhow, so
I'm sorry I didn't vote in your election.
Not at all. Yeah, no, it's tough, because now we do actually, the petition is actually sponsored by a liberal member of parliament. So we deliberately targeted a liberal based on trying to hopefully make them feel like it's they're part of it and it's their idea. So
it their idea, so they will go for it.
Well, yeah. As nice as Canadians are, like, you need to do the right thing for the right reason. So it's totally understandable.
And I will actually say this review isn't like, it's not. I didn't invent this. In fact, Australia has done this twice, where they've done it with two individual soldiers, one from World War II, and recently one from a Vietnam veteran. But the model that I really enjoy is the United States' model. Under George W. Bush in 2002, he commissioned a 10-year study into Jewish and Hispanic soldiers from World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. And at the conclusion of that study, President Obama in 2012 issued 21 medals of honor. And then afterwards, President Biden started no, I think it was Trump. Trump started a study based on Black and Indigenous soldiers from World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. And that would be about, from my calculation, 2.77 million soldiers to be reviewed. Right. And it was supposed to conclude this year, although I don't know if it's going to, where the status of that is, since is it Pete Hegseth? I don't know, is the defense Hegseth, with the whole anti-DEI thing. So I don't know if that's going to be.
I don't think that'll affect a study that's ongoing. Yeah. I don't think they didn't pull money from grants or things like that. Yeah. It's more about continuing something that we're already doing anyway. Like, we're not, I don't know. I don't really want to get political, but from what I can see, it's like the person with the best qualification should win.
But bravery is bravery. I don't
Not
see. Yeah.
necessarily. But
So we've actually identified our organization has identified 36 soldiers, and a lot of them are indigenous, black, or female, or Jewish, date from the First and Second World Wars, and in particular, for example, for the women, they said, "Oh, she would have got a medal, but medals are for men, so we're not going to give her the." And it's just like, well, or the Jewish soldier, they said, well, you know we should, we're not going to give them the Victoria Cross because Jews are known to lie. And so like there's things in there that are just like blatantly horrifically racist.
well,
And
is in your record or never put in your record by you.
yeah.
And I think that's the mistake that people have. It's like, oh, I gave myself this ribbon. It's like, no, none of this has to do with me. And I think
Yeah.
that's a challenge.
Yeah, so we're hoping that if with the review, if it starts with Jess and it expands to the rest, that it will eventually come to where we rectify a lot of the valor unrewarded. Um, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of conversation with us and females in combat and things like that. And, I can say, I have a couple friends who happen to be generals who happen to be females, and they're like, it's not about women in combat or not. It's about those who qualify and have the same standards that you need to be alive. That's what
Yeah.
matters, right? So if the bar is set this high for requirements for you to go into combat, you got to meet those requirements. It's no different than any other job.
100%.
I don't think they're asking too much to do that.
We had
Joe may not qualify. Then what do you do, right?
We had a captain, Ashley Collette. She got the third highest medal in Afghanistan, and she was a platoon or I think she was a platoon commander.
Yeah.
And she was, by all accounts, incredible. So
yes,
yeah.
And like she said, Jane may be perfectly capable of being in combat, but Joseph isn't, and that's okay. And I kind of like she phrased that because it is about meeting that standard and not lowering the standard because you don't want anybody to get killed.
Yeah, 100%. And there's a lot of times that we have a problem with, especially in Canada, and sometimes we seem a little too humble or we seem a little too apathetic. We had a very famous battle called the Medic Pocket in Croatia, where it took us 10 years to actually admit that we were actually in the battle.
Yeah.
So we are. We have a very difficult time in understanding this and maintaining this idea of patriotism and and respect and honor of our soldiers. And a lot of times you look to the South, and you guys, especially the Americans, are just so damn good at it. You almost get jealous of just like how difficult it seems to be for the Canadians to replicate it.
Yeah, we definitely need to fix that for you all. That's, that doesn't make any sense. I don't know how you would survive on $22,000 for the rest of your life. Like that's
well, I mean, yeah, then taking care of our veterans is a whole other podcast that we could do, 6 parts.
We should actually. I agree wholeheartedly because there are some things, we pick on our VA a lot, but at the same time, like my prescriptions are $6.55, and I'm super grateful.
Yeah. So what we have is right before the election, the Canadian government was trying to put out some statistics and some studies showing that the caseworker to veteran workload was much smaller than that was in the States. And I think
ours are horrific. They're 1 to 20.
And so where
they're starving.
Yeah.
Case workers, the caseloads, the case managers, patient advocates, all of that is just, they are flooded constantly.
So Canada was trying to argue that we should try to be the same as the United States and to lower and to make it so that they had less caseworkers, essentially less federal employees. And then the election happened, and then the elbows up stuff. So it's going to be harder for them to sell the trying to be like the states when after Elon Musk doing the all the cuts and everything like that, and Canadians not wanting to be like the United States. So it'd be interesting to see what the next tactic that the Canadian government takes in that sense.
Yeah, that'll be very. I don't know what they plan on doing. I know that a lot of people were allowed to retire with different types of benefits, and there were other people that, just disconnected after the DEI stuff. That money was repurposed, I guess is the only way to put it.
Yeah.
Agree or not agree, it's unfortunate. The VA is not where we need to take away from. There's way more of us than there is workers that work at the VA. So it's very concerning, but I hope and pray that they figure it out.
Yeah, no, we're our military right now is probably in its probably the worst shape it's been in since like the 1890s. We're in shambles, and in fact, our government has said, or our military has said, to that even with the influx of spending that we're supposed to be doing, because we're going to try to meet the 5% NATO spending, is that it won't be until 2032 before we're operational. So we're in rough shape right now. I
Well,
think
I
we're
know
down.
that our numbers have increased as far as new recruits, but the challenge is there's no longer the 20-year mark of pensions. It's a 401k.
Yeah, and the retention, you're recruiting, but you're not retaining.
Yes.
Um, and so with us, I think I remember seeing a statistic that the New York City police force is bigger than the Canadian military. So it's yeah, so like
Well, you're all so nice. You don't need
yeah,
it,
yeah.
right?
Well, I mean, but at times now we've always thought, well, the United States will protect us, or we don't need to worry about it. The states will just help us. And I think that's, at the end of, well, 80 years
You're
ago,
not wrong. We will show
right?
up when you need us. I do
80,
agree with that.
80 years ago, Canada, Japan surrendered, and at that time, Canada had the fourth largest navy and the fourth largest air force in the world, and so we've basically gone from that to completely dismantled.
Well,
So
people don't want to. I mean, look at what you received after actually being
yeah,
injured.
and it's going to be very hard to convince Canadians to join and do that if you're going to give a lump sum pension instead of a monthly pension. And essentially, what's going to happen is they're going to have to draft. It's just patriotism only goes so far, and
Or
especially
they
yeah,
need to restructure the benefits of serving.
they'd rather they'd rather draft, I think, than do that.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Oh,
So, in my opinion, I think that would be an easier option because they don't want to pay. And that's the thing. And that was one of the big things. Like, if you're going to make veterans, you got to pay for them. And they seemed all too willing to make. And 2,100 were injured in Afghanistan. We had some of the highest casualty rates. And then you look at 158 died, and more committed suicide than when they came back. So it has not been a very pleasant. I'll say this: being a Veterans Affairs Minister in Canada is probably one of the least desirable jobs in the country, and I think the new minister is going to have to try to sell some cuts and to spending that's going to be very hard for her. And just sometimes you got to toe the party line, but it doesn't make you popular.
heartbreaking. And this has got to
Yeah,
be very. I
yeah,
mean, I can't imagine the hopelessness you feel when you're reliant upon people in power to support you to do the right thing and they just won't do it.
yeah. So, but yeah.
How do you manage that? Sorry to get
Um,
therapy, but I am really curious.
my,
And then I'll let Dorothy close.
I so how I manage it is sometimes stepping back is huge. You know, turning it off, being a dad to two incredible boys that are going to turn 8, being
awesome.
being you know, going to my classroom and teaching my students. You know, in terms of turning the page, sometimes it is again, sometimes you just need that break to from the front lines. And I've seen a lot of guys burn out. I've seen a lot of guys just throw their hands up and say, I'm done. I don't want anything to do with it no more. And I've been thankful in the fact that I've been able to do this for 10 plus years, almost as long as I served in the military, and advocate. And I also have fun. You know, I have fun telling Jess's story. I have fun going and seeing Jess's mom and telling her that I'm going to keep fighting for her son. I have fun seeing his brother and hugging him and saying, you know, I'm sorry for your loss, but I want to keep this fight going and getting their blessing. So I've got too many soldiers that depend on this fight, and I deliberately chose this as well, as I feel like this is the lowest hanging fruit, and if you can't do this, then there's not much you can do. And so that was the basically the thing, is if you're not even gonna give a piece of tin and ribbon out, then you're not going to give us pensions. You're not going to give. So basically, it's like, you know, it's sad when it becomes down to the fact is that look, this medal means not a lot just to Jess and Jess's legacy and Jess's family. It means a whole lot to a lot of us, because it feels like one of us is finally being recognized for the way he deserves. So this cause has humbled me in many ways. There's been I mean, I just, as I described the effect of the social media page, the effects that I've had where I'm seeing people wearing our T-shirts and having events, an annual ride for Jess, and people sharing my stuff and things that I have nothing, I have no part of, and yet it's kind of grown and been a grassroots roots movement, and I'm, you know, as proud of that as my service. And I'm not advocating for myself.
No.
I don't want a medal. I want to make sure that those that came before me get their proper recognition, and then those that I served with, that I know are undervalued for how they were treated, get properly at least the reviewed, and hopefully we can get a few Victoria Crosses, the first ever issued, to the point where that a lot of us just feel like we're finally being listened to and we're finally being recognized.
Well, I'm thrilled to be able to sign the petition as soon as we hang up here. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Can't, you're American.
You and your watch me sign it. I don't care if I don't matter. I'm still gonna sign it.
Perfect.
Well, I'm just saying, because Melanie said she wanted to sign it, but I asked Bruce, and Bruce said only Canadians.
I'm still going to sign it.
Do it.
Okay. Just
I'm going to sign it. It doesn't matter if I count.
Okay.
Put Dorothy's address.
Okay, I will.
Go ahead, you have it.
Yeah. So.
Anyways, I did put in the comments here your website for the valor in the presence of the enemy.
Yes.
On
Yes.
Facebook. Is that the best place for people to connect with you?
Yeah, that is. Yeah, that it would be. And then you can search my name on Facebook. I have an open page. So.
Well, Bruce, this has been enlightening. I can't say that I'm not enraged on your behalf and on the behalf of our Canadian soldiers. I mean, I after listening to so many stories from our American people, and I truly, I had no idea what, as a Canadian, even though I am a Canadian, and I had no idea what our own soldiers were going through. And so for you to share that, thank you for sharing the story in detail, number one. And just letting the people know that, wait a minute, you know, this isn't right. And we have to right this wrong, because this is not I don't know how people can sleep at night knowing that this shit happened. And even going back from when you said that, oh, some of the women weren't acknowledged and getting their ribbons because they were a woman. Well, hello, like, come on now.
No, we deal with that too.
That is just bullshit. Anyways, if I stay on any much longer, I'm going to start flipping out here. So you definitely have another ally on your side, my
I
friend.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Anything that we could do for you, please let us know. And we would love to have you back on. I want to be respectful. I know we're past the hour here, but would love to have you back on sometime. And because I feel like I probably have like another hour of questions, but I want to be respectful of your time, and I appreciate you so much coming on here, and thank you so much.
Send your question that you ask everybody.
Okay, well, I'm changing my question up. So what would you say that your legacy is?
My legacy? Oh man. I'd say my legacy as a soldier, as a son, as a Canadian, and teacher now, and father. As I feel like I am, as proud of my country as I could possibly be. But my legacy would be that I fought for my country, and then I fought my country for my proper respect, and the respect that my brothers and sisters do. So my legacy is that I fought for the people. One of my proudest things is, like, I always fought for. I always felt like I was going and fighting for bringing Canadian and American protests and anger, and standing up to governments when you're being mistreated. And I'm my legacy would be, yeah, I'd say in a nutshell, is I fought for my country, and then I fought my country. So and I'm very proud of the fact that I was able to do that, and in a free country, and express the opinions that I was able to say and do.
Wow, that hits. Anyways, I'll share a story with you off air about my uncle, who the one that served, and about legacy. But anyways, thank you again so much for coming on here,
Of
and
course, thanks for having me.
thank you to everybody that has joined us tonight, and for those of you that are going to see this on the replay, please subscribe to our channel, and please share this particular episode with every Canadian that you know, and sign the petition so that we could get Jess the proper medal that he so rightly deserves. So
Petition 6661. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And I will make sure it is in the comments, but I will make sure it's on the show notes too. Yeah, let's get that sucker signed.
Just for the record, real quick, I don't think there's any female Medal of Honor recipients. I was looking at I don't think there has been, just FYI, for America either.
Oh, female? No, there hasn't been.
Yeah. There's none.
No, I think there might have been one in the Civil War, but I'm not 100%.
I think so. I'm looking.
Yeah. I don't know. There was something where
I might be wrong. So.
I think they took it away, or I don't know. It was a whole, but it was
Her name was probably James, and they didn't. Misunderstood. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's that's been a challenge as well.
Yeah. 100%.
Oh, that just sucks on so many levels too. Okay, well, we're gonna have to come back and have another episode on just that.
Yeah, we do. I agree.
Let's. Between the Canadian and the U.S., we're going to be infiltrating the phone lines.
Yes,
infiltrating the phone lines, and just really getting these people the honors that they deserve. But wow, again, thank you so much, Bruce, for joining us. And we will definitely have you back on if you're willing to come back on.
Of course. Give you an update on the petition. We're about we're just over, I think, 6,000 signatures now. Yeah.
Well, just because Americans don't count doesn't mean we can't do it. Prove it.
You can share and put it on your page and let everyone, all your Canadian friends know.
Yes, please do that. All right, guys. Stay unstoppable and see you next week. Same time, same channel. Bye for now.